Understanding ellipses. An ellipse is a set of points x, y in a plane where the sum whose distances from two distinct points are constant. The standard form equation of an horizontal ellipse is x minus h quantity squared over a squared plus y minus k quantity squared over b squared, and that is always equal to 1. Now, another thing we need to note is that c squared is going to be equal to a squared minus b squared. So we want to find the center, the vertices and co-vertices, and the focus points of these ellipses. So the center is going to be HK, which is the same as a circle. The vertices on a horizontal ellipse are going to be H plus or minus, there are two different vertices, the A, comma, K, and the co-vertices will be H, K plus or minus B, and finally the focus points will be H plus or minus C, K. A vertical ellipse is similar with one minor difference. X minus h quantity squared over b squared plus y minus k quantity squared over a squared, and that still equals 1. And c squared still equals a squared minus b squared. So if I were to find the center of this one, it would be the same, h, k, and the vertices this time would be h, k plus or minus a, and the co-vertices would be h plus or minus b, k, and the focus points would be h, k plus or minus c. Now, one other thing that we should note with any standard form equation, if we want to find the major axis, all we have to do is take 2 times our A, and that's going to be our major axis. And if we want to find our minor axis, then all we have to do is take 2 times our B. And that's how we find our major axis points and minor axis. In this first example, what we want to do is find our standard form equation. So the first thing we want to note is it vertical or is it horizontal? We can say that it is vertical because our x values stay the same in our center and vertex. So we know it is a vertical. So if it's vertical, then we know it's of the form x minus h quantity squared over b squared plus y minus k quantity squared over a squared equals 1. So I need to fill in what I can. Alright, so the first thing I want to do is find my A. I need to find my A and my B, and I need to put in my center. Well, I know what my center is, so I can find HK pretty easy right there. Okay, and now my A. To find my A, what I'm going to do is use my vertex that I know and my center, because I know that a vertex is just going to be h, k plus or minus a. So if that's the case, then what I need to do is figure out the k plus or minus a. Well, when I go from -1 to +1/2, I know that's a bigger number, so I'm going to add a in this case. So I'm going to have 2 comma, -1 plus a. Alright, so now we have -1 plus a equals 1/2. So if I add the 1 over, then I have a equals 3/2. So now I can put that in for my a. And the last thing I need to do is find my b. So to find b, I'm going to use my minor axis because I know that 2b equals 2. So I divide by 2, and b equals 1. So put that in for b. Then my final answer, my final standard form equation is x minus 2 squared over my b squared, which is 1. 1 squared is 1, plus y minus a negative, so plus 1 quantity squared over my a was 3 over 2, so my a squared is 9 over 4 equals 1. And there's your standard form equation. You don't have to write the x squared part over 1, but you can. It doesn't change the problem. In this next one, we want to find the center, the vertices, the co-vertices, and the focus points. But in order to do that, we need to find standard form equation. So, standard form equation needs to be equal to 1, so I'm going to divide by 36. So my standard form equation is going to be x squared over 9 plus y squared over 36 equals 1. So that's standard form equation. So from there, I can find my center to be 0, 0. And then my vertices, I need to find my a. A is the bigger one. 36 equals a squared. So a equals plus or minus 6. Alright, and that is matched up with the y. So that means my y is going to change. 0, and then 0 plus or minus 6. So that's going to be 0, 6, and 0, negative 6. And then the next one is co-vertices. So my x is going to change, and that's to deal with my b. So my b is 9 equals b squared, so that means b equals 3. 0 plus or minus 3, comma 0 are my co-vertices. So 3, 0, and negative 3, 0. And finally, my focus points. Okay, so c equals c squared equals a squared, which was 36, minus b squared, which was 9, so c squared equals 27. So you take a square root, and c equals square root of 27, which simplifies to 3 square roots of 3. Alright, my focus points are then going to be 0, 0 plus or minus square root of 3. 3 square root of 3. Alright, now we just split that up and we would have our focus points of 0, 3 square roots of 3, and 0, negative 3 square roots of 3. And that would be your final answer. In this last one, we want to find the center, the vertices, co-vertices, and focus point. Again, in order to do that, we need to put it in standard form. So, when I put it in standard form, I'm going to group my x's. X squared plus 6x plus 4y squared. I'm going to factor out the 4 right now. Y squared, and if I factor it out of the 4y squared, I got to factor it out of the negative 8y. So minus 2y. And then I'm going to get the 9 over on the other side, so minus 9. Okay, from there, what I need to do is just complete my squares. So that would be plus 6 over 2 quantity squared. And the other one is plus a negative 2 over 2 quantity squared. But when I add that one to the other side, I need to remember to multiply it times the 4, which is on the outside. So 4 times negative 2 over 2 quantity squared. So my completed squares would then be x plus 3 quantity squared plus 4y plus minus 1 plus a negative quantity squared equals negative 9 plus 9 plus 4, so equals 4. And then I need to divide by the 4. So my standard form equation is x plus 3 quantity squared over 4 plus y minus 1 quantity squared over 1, which equals 1. So really quickly I can find my center to be negative 3, positive 1. My vertices, it looks like my bigger denominator is with the x, so that means my x is going to change on my vertices. So it's going to be comma 1 and comma 1. Then I just need to figure out my a. My a is a squared equals 4. So that means a equals 2. So that means that negative 3 plus or minus 2 comma 1 is going to be my vertices. So negative 3 plus 2 is a negative 1. Negative 3 minus 2 is a negative 5. So those are my two vertices. Co-vertices. My x will remain the same. So negative 3 and negative 3. And then I need to figure out what my y coordinates are. So that's going to correspond to my b. B is 1 squared. B squared equals 1 squared. So B equals 1. And that means that negative 3, 1 plus or minus 1 is going to be my co-vertices. So that would be negative 3, 2, and negative 3, 0. Finally, my focus points. The same thing is going to change on my vertices and on my focus points. So that means my x is going to change. So I'm going to have my negative 3 plus or minus something, comma 1. So I need to find my c. C squared equals a squared, which is 4, minus b squared, which is 1. 4 minus 1 is 3. So c equals square root of 3. And that means that my focus points are going to be negative 3 plus or minus square root of 3, comma 1. So if I were to write that, negative 3 plus the square root of 3 and negative 3 minus the square root of 3, comma 1. And that is your final answer. You have to find standard form equation in order to find everything else. And that's it for your notes over understanding ellipses. Go through the practice problems, make sure you can do all these different types of problems, and then prepare for your quiz.